Today, I'm diving into some exciting news in the world of marathon running. Sydney has been selected to become the 7th Abbott World Marathon Major. This will reshape the landscape of marathon running, especially for those chasing the prestigious 6-star medal. But how will this impact the sport, running tourism, the environment, and those who have worked tirelessly to complete the 6 major circuit? For those of you unfamiliar with the Abbott World Marathon Majors, let's start with a real quick recap. Currently, there are 6 iconic races: Boston, New York, London, Chicago, Berlin, and Tokyo. Together, they form the dream marathon circuit for runners around the world. Completing all 6 earns you a prestigious 6-star medal, one of the most coveted achievements in the sport. Now, Sydney is no stranger to large-scale marathons. With over 20,000 finishes in its most recent marathon earlier this year, it has already positioned itself as one of the world's premier running destinations. The addition of Sydney means that marathoners now have a new city on their radar with a 7th star in the mix. So let's explore what the ramifications are. For those pursuing the 6-star medal, the addition of Sydney brings both excitement and new challenges. On one hand, runners will have another city to add to their list, but it also means they may need to adjust their goals. So imagine saving up and training for years to finally complete the 6 majors, only to find out there's now a 7th race you need to run. This creates both excitement and probably some anxiety for some. For those who've already completed their 6-star journey, there may be mixed emotions: pride for finishing the original series, but pressure now to tackle a new city to stay up to date. Completing the 6 World Marathon Majors obviously isn't an easy task. It's not just about running the 26.2 miles in each city. There's the financial cost, the travel logistics, entry fees, entry access, and the sheer time commitment. For many runners, completing the 6-star challenge is a multi-year or even decade-long journey. The average cost for runners to complete all 6 can run into the tens of thousands of dollars, depending on where they live. So adding a 7th city, particularly one in another part of the world, could make this even more daunting for those who are already stretched thin financially. And it's not just about the money. Many runners have to balance careers, families, and other time commitments while pursuing their marathon goals. For some, the prospect of adding this 7th major may feel a bit overwhelming, especially if they've spent years working towards the original 6-star goal. Now, imagine the feeling of completing that final marathon, like the one in New York recently, crossing the finish line, receiving your 6-star medal, knowing you've joined an elite group of runners worldwide. But then news breaks that a 7th star has been added. How would you feel? Organisers have tried to dampen this down by stating that finishers would still get a 6-star medal based on completing the original 6 races, but the kudos would surely be overshadowed a little bit by the new benchmark of 7, with new overarching medals being added at a later date. So for some runners, this news might be frustrating and even disheartening. They've put in the time, the effort, and the resources to achieve a monumental goal, only to feel like the finish line has been moved. It's not hard to imagine some runners feeling a bit upset. On the other hand, there will be runners who see this as an opportunity, a new challenge, and a fresh journey to embark on. But it's clear that not everyone will share the same enthusiasm, and the fallout of this news in the marathon community could be divided on whether adding more majors is a positive step. So why are Abbott and the World Marathon Majors expanding their list? The answer lies in 2 key factors: inclusivity and growth. First, adding more marathons makes the circuit more accessible to runners in different parts of the world. Right now, runners from Africa, South America, and many parts of Asia need to travel to Europe, the US, or Japan to participate in these races. By adding new cities, particularly from underrepresented regions, the sport can become more global, diverse, and inclusive. The second reason is the growth of the sport. The global interest in marathons is booming, with millions of runners signing up for races every year. By expanding the list of majors, Abbott can continue to ride this wave and popularity and bring more attention and money to the sport. So why Sydney? Well, Sydney has been evaluated over a 3-year period on criteria including runner experience, aid stations, and finisher numbers. In fact, there were hundreds of criteria. Only 2 years ago, it had a field of about 5,000, but it has grown to just over 20,000 runners. A legacy of the 2000 Olympic Games, the iconic route takes runners over the Sydney Harbour Bridge and finishes in front of the Sydney Opera House. So Sydney has been successful in its candidacy, but there are more cities that could potentially join the Abbott World Marathon Majors. Back in 2017, there were reports Abbott were looking at an eventual 9-race major calendar, with many cities expressing an interest. Shanghai, for example, has been making headlines recently as a contender before the confirmation broke recently confirming Sydney. In fact, this very video has had to have a late rewrite as some of the recent articles indicated Shanghai could actually be next. Cape Town is another strong candidate. As one of the most scenic marathons in the world, it would also introduce Africa as a continent represented in the majors, which would be a huge step for the sport. And then there's Buenos Aires. As the biggest marathon in South America, it could be a gateway for more South American runners to participate in the majors without having to fly halfway across the globe. Other possibilities include Seoul and Dubai, both of which have growing reputations in the marathon world. It's also sure to impact on running tourism too. Marathon majors already attract thousands of runners from all over the world. Expanding the list would only increase this trend. World Marathon Major host cities often see a huge boost in tourism, with local hotels, restaurants and businesses benefiting from the influx of runners and their supporters. If more cities become marathon major destinations, it could mean a significant economic impact, not just on race day, but throughout the entire year. There is, however, another side to this boost in marathon tourism: its environmental impact. Hosting a major marathon brings in tens of thousands of people, which means more flights, more waste, and bigger carbon footprint. That said, many marathons are now stepping up to address these concerns, from reducing single-use plastics to offering carbon offsetting programs. The goal is to make these large-scale events more sustainable. Whatever future additions there are to the marathon calendar, candidates will need to adopt similar practices if they hope to balance the benefits of tourism with the need for environmental sustainability. There is also a huge opportunity to grow the sport globally. More races in more regions should mean more exposure for marathon running, which can inspire the next generation of runners. Not only does it provide opportunities for elite runners, but it also opens the door for everyday runners to experience the magic of running in a marathon major. The expansion of the majors could bring running culture to communities that have never hosted such large-scale events. So what's next for the majors? The inclusion of Sydney in the Abbott World Marathon Majors is just the beginning of a new chapter for the sport. Whether you're chasing the 6 or soon 7, or future 8 or 9, or you're just excited to see where the next great marathon will be held, one thing is clear: the world of marathon running is growing, but that growth can be exciting as well as challenging. What do you think about Sydney becoming a World Marathon Major? Will you be taking on the challenge? And which cities would you like to see added next? Let me know in the comments below. Want to learn more about how to get into the other marathon majors? Click on one of the videos on the screen to watch next. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more of my running videos. But until next time, happy running.